live from Huntertown, Indiana. It's Soarin Hawk on the air. So here we are, a nice kind of soggy day. The rain has passed, the sun's coming out. And of course the sun's coming out and all that moisture is now going into the air. And the humidity is about 106%. So that's all right. So fortunately the birds don't have sweaty wing pits. We do. So we're going to work on this. So today we have a little bit different topic. I think last week I talked to you guys about bird watching, and so then some questions came up like, hey, we want to do bird watching and we need to get some binoculars, but how do we do that? So I'm going to give you a kind of a lesson on binoculars, probably a little more than some of you want, but I think it's going to be an explanation of how binoculars work and that kind of thing. So you're going to get a little science along with the what to do about buying binoculars, because binoculars can be a real big investment, and it's the kind of thing like something that's going to last you a long time. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and as we go along, I think I'm going to answer most of the questions, but and it's going to be stuff that you can't get answered at the when you go down to the sports store or Wild Birds or Birdseekery or wherever you buy your binoculars, and so we're going to start off with bird watching and binoculars. So if you're going to go bird watching or nature watching or sports watching or whatever, it's kind of nice to have some binoculars, so you can get a close-up view of the action, see what's going on. And of course, one of my favorite bird watchers is this one here out there. She's not looking for birds; she's looking for cheetahs. And these three guys, and some of our favorite bird watchers. So what are what are binoculars? Okay, well, basically they're two telescopes joined to allow dual images to be seen by a user to form a magnified 3D image. Okay, that's it simply. Binoculars use a series of lenses and prisms, sometimes mirrors, encased in a tube to produce magnified images. Well, you don't have to worry about that, but that's just to kind of give you an idea of what you're really looking at. The first binoculars, as I understand it, were produced somewhere in the 1600s. So somebody, but they were kind of clumsy. They didn't work too well. But, and they didn't have all the nice modern stuff like we had. So this is just briefly after Galileo came up with his telescope, and then Newton came up with his modification, and then some other guys developed all kinds of different kinds of telescopes. But at best, most of those telescopes were only like 4 power, 5 power. They weren't very strong at all. But considering what was available at the time, that's what they had to work with. So talking about how the physics, and this is a part where somebody told me that I really don't want to know about the physics, but but I think you have to know. So essentially, what you have is you have a lens over here that collects the light, and then takes it, bends the light, and comes out at a focal point here, and then that light transmits on to another lens that focuses for your eyes, or gets straight for your eyes. Now, this red line here was just here to indicate what happens to the light. It gets folded, okay? It gets bent over and actually comes out at the eyepiece as an upside down image. And so that's why when you look through an astronomical telescope, everything looks upside down, and so that's why you always see astronomers hanging by their toes. No, I'm just kidding about that. But anyways, but that's the way they work, and but we don't like that, because when we look through our binoculars, we don't want to see the birds hanging upside down or flying upside down, things like that. So it's for binoculars, we add some other features to correct all that. So when people go in to buy binoculars, there's all these different terms and things, and they say, what are all those things? I mean, you got things like magnification and objective, field of view, minimum focus distance, roof or poro, eyepieces, interpupillary, pupillary, I can't say, pupillary, okay, there we go, distance, exit pupil, eye relief, all kinds of things out there. There's, let's see, diopter ring, and there's, let's see, what else we got? We got glass types, and we have coatings, and we have weatherproofing. So all these different things. So when you go in there, it's worse than trying to buy a car. Okay, so all these features, and what is it that you're going to get? So I'm going to try to explain what some of these numbers mean, and if somebody really would like to know more detail about it or would like a copy of this, just email us, okay, at Soarin Hawk, and I can make copies of this stuff and we can send it out to you, okay? So magnification and objectives, okay? So these are the numbers when somebody talks about the binoculars being 10 by 50s or 7 by 35s or 8 by 40s, things like that. So the first number, okay, is basically the power, okay? So if you have 10 by or 10x, this is the magnification or how much closer an object appears to you. The second number is the number of millimeters wide that the objective or front lens is. And basically, the larger the lens, the more light is collected. That is, everything else is kept equal, okay? And so a 7 by 35 is a binocular with a magnification of 7 power with an objective lens of 35. And these numbers are kind of important, okay? So, and I'm going to explain about some of that. So next thing is that people they talk about is field of view, and this is the number of feet across. The way they express it is number of feet across at 100 yards that you can observe when you look through the binoculars. So why 100 yards? I don't know. I think it's because a lot of nautical things are all done at 100 yards. Or 1,000 yards rather. I said 1,000 yards. So for some reason, and 1,000 yards is a little over. Well, let's see, what's 1,000 yards? That's over half a mile. Okay, and I think that 1,000 yards is like is equivalent to 1 knot. Okay, 1 nautical mile or whatever. So there's different things in there. So anyways, that's the term that they use. So when somebody says it has so many feet wide that you can see, that's what you can see 1,000 yards away. And so in some cases, like you want a wide field of view if you're just scanning for wildlife and stuff like that, and but you want a narrow field of view if you're only looking for specific things like some birds and stuff like that. So it varies upon the application. Minimum focus distance, that's how close to an object that you can still properly focus your binoculars. Some binoculars can only get within like 10 feet, 12 feet, something like that. Some are designed so you can get as close as 8 feet. And the big thing is that sometimes the way the images are produced, that the images don't overlap. And so I've seen people come away with migraine headaches trying to focus on something 8 feet away when their binoculars weren't designed for that. And then there's the different types of prisms that go into the binoculars, and there's 2 types. And these prism systems are used to extend the focal length of the optics and to correct for optical orientation. In other words, get the things right side up for one thing, okay? The other thing is that the longer the focal length, the more magnification you can get. So you want to have as long a, but with the little binoculars you're holding in your hand, you don't want, you're going to have a short focal length if you just use the tubes. But by putting those prisms in and bending the light all over the place, you can make it longer, okay? So you basically have the 2 types. You have the roof prism over here, where the prisms are put back to back, so the light goes through and bounces around, goes from prism to prism, and there may be as many as 6 prisms involved in this, but in this diagram it's just 1 or 2 prisms. And so the light bounces back and forth and then finally goes out, whereas with the Poro prisms, which were the first prisms that we used to make binoculars, they're wider set apart, and again they do much the same thing. They bounce the light around, extend the focal length, and also orient the thing. And one of the things you'll notice is that with the Poro prisms you have wider binoculars. With the roof prisms you have more compact binoculars. And the eyepiece, that's the part up against your eye, that's the part you look through, that provides the final magnification. In other words, it's that light that comes out of the prisms, and then it corrects the magnification, and you can look at that, and it provides the final focusing for your eye so that you get the image the way you want it to. And then there's this thing called the interpupillary, there's one L missing there, I'm sorry, distance, okay? And that's the minimum maximum distance between the center of the exit lenses. So you have a distance between your two eyes. And so what you need to do is have binoculars that can line up with the pupils of your eyes. So if you know, a lot of people, some people have narrow faces, some people have wide faces. And the binocular manufacturers try to make them for something that fits in the middle. But if you have a narrow face, you know, you need to have those exit pupils line up, because if you don't, you're going to have a very bad look or image that you're going to see. And also, the other thing is you're going to have a very bad headache trying to get things to line up. So that's one of the important things when you look, because, you know, and so that interpupillary distance is affected by the way the binoculars are constructed. You know, they have the two tubes, and then you have them joined in the center. You have a center part, and a lot of times that's where the focus wheel and everything is. And so so how close can you get those, or how far apart you can get those? So that's one of the major things that you're going to look at when you buy binoculars. And a lot of times they don't even talk about that, you know, when they talk about the, you know, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. But typically when they sell you binoculars, or if you go through mail order or something like that, a lot of that stuff is not going to be put out there. They don't, you know, a lot of people don't recognize it, because a lot of people have an average face, and so they don't notice these things. And then there's the exit pupil, and this is kind of an important thing. This is the size of the object that, or image that you see. All right. So, you know, and the way they calculate the exit pupil is they take the size of the objective lens divided by the magnification, and this exit pupil should be about 5 millimeters. So, as you know, your pupil expands and contracts or dilates depending upon the amount of light coming into it. So if it's really dark or something like that, your eye opens really wide. And if, you know, and on the other hand, if it's really bright, then it really narrows down. Well, the thing is with optics, the smaller, okay, the smaller the pupil, or the, you might call it the exit pupil, the better the performance, but you have to have a lot of light behind it. So you should match the viewer's pupil in low light conditions. That's what you should have. So that's what you want to do, is match, you know, for you to get the best performance out of the binoculars. So the average should be, so that should be about a 5 there. Somewhere between 4.5 and 6 is a good number. And then they talk about the diopter ring, and this is what gets a lot of people in a little bit of trouble. And that's that little adjustment that you find around the right eyepiece usually. Sometimes they're on the left, and sometimes they're in the middle control. Okay, so but they're used to compensate the difference between your two eyes. You know, most people don't realize it, but they do have a difference between the two eyes. My one eye is 2015, the other one's 2020. So I do have to make a little compensation in there, a little difference, so that everything is balanced and I get the best viewing. Okay, so you know, one eye isn't doing all the work and the other one's just sitting there. You know, I guess they call that lazy eye. No, I can no, look like Marty Feldman. Okay, so anyways, so it compensates for the difference between your eyes. Also, our eyes vary each day, you know, depending upon sinus pressure, air pressure, things like that. So sometimes, you know, you wake up and your left eye is working just fine, but the right eye just can't seem to focus right, you know, and it's because your sinuses are enlarged, you know, for some reason, or you got a real bad migraine from the night before, things like that. So there are effects that, you know, so to get maximum usage out of your binoculars, you need to have that little diopter ring in there. And then there's this thing called eye relief. Now, for a lot of people, it doesn't make much difference, but the eye relief is the distance from the exit lens to your eye. And so when you put your eyes up to the binoculars, you have a little cup there, and you fit them in there, and you can look at the image. But for people with glasses, what happens is that the glasses rest up against the eye cup, and so that puts your eye further away from the eye exit pupil, okay, the exit lens. So what you can do is you can roll down that eye cup, all right, to get the glasses back up there. But there is, even if you wear glasses, you have eye relief between the back of the lens and the front of your eye. So your glasses are adjusted for that eye relief, and the lens is compensating for that eye relief. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff to this optics business. No wonder nobody wants to hear about the physics. And then there's the glass type. The better glass that you get in the binoculars, the more clarity and light transmission. Every time light hits a surface, it can be reflected, it can be refracted, all kinds of things can happen to it. Depending upon the quality of the glass, sometimes you have really minute little air bubbles and things like that in there, and so it causes all kinds of light dispersions. And like you can see here from this bird here with all the red and green fringing upon it, so that's refraction. So if you're looking through poor glass, you would see a bird that looked multicolored, and it really isn't. Okay, so then they throw out terms like BK7, SK, back 4, ED, all kinds of things about glass. Well, basically what happens with glass is that glass is essentially silica to which other chemicals are added. Sometimes lead, zinc, other materials, arsenic, all kinds of chemicals to make the glass clearer, purer, that kind of thing. So the least good, least better, least whatever. Well, it is. BK7 is a type of glass that's used in a lot of general optical equipment. So you'll see it in inexpensive microscopes, inexpensive telescopes, same way with binoculars and other optical things, where really a lot of technical things don't have to be done, and so the clarity isn't as important, that kind of thing. You don't care that much about refraction and detail. So the BK7, and then after that you go to the SK, which is kind of in between high and low, and the SK has other chemicals added to it. It is pure. Then somebody came along over there in Germany, the Zeiss people, and they came up with this BAK 4, BAK4, which has other chemicals in it, and it's pure and has less refractive indices and less reflective powers. And I think some other people, Swarovski, which you've heard of, make all that nice fine jewelry. They also make great binoculars and optical equipment, and so they have better glass. And then finally, you come up with what they call ED, and that's a special glass that's been taken care of, so it reduces dispersion of the light and things. So each of these is a different stage, and of course, as you can imagine, it's going to be you're starting off there with your Fiesta over there, and you're working up there towards your Lamborghini. Okay, so so they get better, and of course the expense goes up. But I'm only telling you these things so that when you're talking about it, you can kind of judge for yourself what it is that you need, what you want to use, and And then there's coatings. They'll talk about coatings, and coatings improve the transmission of light. And so every time light hits the surface of glass, it's refracted. It also reflected. And so if you make a better coating, that means that the light goes through into the glass easier or better. So it improves the transmission, and it, like I said here, it reduces the dispersion of the light. And then there's all kinds of terms that they use. Coated means that usually the glass on the outside is coated with coatings, to reduce dispersion. Multi-coated means that the lenses are coated inside and outside. So on the front side and back side of the lenses, those are all coated. Again, it costs you a little bit more. And if they're fully multi-coated, okay, that means every surface, okay, that's in your binocular is coated. And then finally, of all the lenses. And then if it's prism coated, then your lenses and your prisms inside are coated. So, and as you can imagine, at each step, it's a little more expensive, but it's better quality. So again, it depends, and of course, better quality means higher cost. So again, it's what you think that you need and what you can live with. And then there's waterproofing, okay? And there's all kinds of terms used about weatherproofing. There's weather resistant. That means if you get into the sprinkles or something like that, you're okay. Just wipe the stuff off, you're fine. Waterproofing means that all the joints are all sealed with rings, rubber rings, so that water doesn't get inside. I had a pair of binoculars. I went on a boat trip one time, and it was a rough boat trip. When I got back to the motel that night, I looked in there into my binoculars, and one side was clear, the other side looked like an aquarium. It was full of water. They weren't waterproof. They were weather resistant, but they weren't waterproof. And fortunately, I was able to salvage them and get them fixed up. So waterproof means that the joints are all sealed, and where the lenses go on, and where the adjusting rod wheel is, and everything like that, so water doesn't get inside. And then you have fog proof, and this is something that you really want to have, because if there's moisture trapped inside the binocular, okay, when the temperatures change, all of a sudden that stuff condenses. Like in your car, you get in there in a winter morning and you start breathing, all of a sudden the inside of your windshield is coated, okay, it's fogged up, you can't see well. So fog proofing usually means that the air inside the binocular has been purged, and it's been replaced with either argon or nitrogen or something like that. So it basically drives out all the moisture. And of course, if you have fog proof, then you have to have waterproof, so everything's sealed. Otherwise, it's going to leak like a sieve. And then finally, there's rubber coating. Some people, think that if you add rubber coating, it makes them more resistant. Well, yes and no. Rubber coating works nice. It helps to protect the binocular. It also helps to take some of the shock out of being dropped or something like that. But again, rubber coating doesn't necessarily make it waterproof. You really need to have waterproof, that kind of thing. So you're going to go out and you're going to buy your binoculars. Okay. So the first thing is go to the store, okay, and look over the binoculars, or borrow a friend's. Or if you're really lucky, you can sometimes make a deal with the store and say, hey, look, I'd like to take these home and try them out, and sometimes they'll let you do that, if you're a really good customer. And so you try them out under different conditions. And so, but anyways, you go to the store to look at them. You adjust them to the eyes. Remember that interpupillary distance. So you get them and you check them up, and then you kind of focus them a little bit. I'll go into some of this a little bit later on. You'd go at, I always suggest people go at twilight time, as it's getting dark, because you want to see how they really work under low light conditions. Everything looks good under bright light conditions. I mean, you can take two toilet paper tubes, put them together, and you look through them, and they look just great. But it's not necessarily about what you want to see. Is what does it look like on a dull, rainy day like this, or at night? I always suggest people do it about in the wintertime, like at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Just before the store closes. Go out there and look. So that you can really see how much light is collected. And look at objects about 100 yards away, all right? Because you want to look at them across the parking lot or something like that, because you don't want them up close, but you want them far enough away that, you can't see detail with your naked eye. So now you want to look and see if there's detail out there. So you want to look at them. And then if you're looking for close-up binoculars, look at an object about 8 feet away, I mean, if it's closer than 8 feet, you can probably see it very well with your naked eye, so you don't really need them. So, and then always, use targets that have horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, so you look out there and you look and see if the vertical lines are bent or moved or, cockeyed. So it's, and I've seen some binoculars, where people have come in and said, I don't understand what's wrong with binoculars. And you hold them up and you look through them, and the vertical lines are waving all over the place, and and a lot of times it's part of it's because something has they've dropped them or something like that, or they're poor quality to begin with, or the two tubes aren't lined up. They're out of alignment with each other, so things aren't so anyway. So how to adjust your binoculars? Okay, bins. A lot of people call their binoculars bins. Okay, so so if you're really want to show your quality of bird watching, you refer to them as your bins, okay? Okay. So anyways, and don't call them field glasses. Field glasses are not bins. Field glasses are just basically telescopes with no prisms. Okay, so they're called field glasses, and that's because they're just all glass, no prisms or anything like that. So you get your bins. First thing you want to do is make sure they're clean. So you want to clean out all the cookie crumbs and stuff like that may have collected in your eyepieces. So you can blow them out. You can take a little camel hair brush or something like that. Brush that part out, and then after you do that, then you want to clean it. Use a lens cleaner for the binoculars. So you use that, and there's also these little microcloth towels that you can wipe in there, and so you want to get that. So first you clean them up. Because you don't want spots and stuff like that. There's nothing. I had one person. She says, I don't know. It says there's something really wrong because I looked through here and stuff looks kind of reddish. And so went turned them over, and apparently they had stopped and they were eating along the trail, and they had some spaghetti or something. And so there was little red spots in the spaghetti on the lens. So you want to clean your lenses, okay? And it makes things look a lot better, okay? So, then next thing you do is you take that diopter ring and set it to 0, all right? And then you go and you adjust the distance on the binoculars. You just pull them in and out, okay? Swing them side to side so that they line up with your eyes, okay? So you want the interpupillary, I got the 2 L's this time, distance, right? Then what you do is you close your right eye, okay? Lynn, close your right eye, okay? And you take the binoculars and you focus on an object about 20 feet away, and you focus that left eye and you get it nice and focused, okay? Then you close your left eye and you open your right one, okay? And then you adjust that diopter ring, all right? And you may want to do that and also open both eyes, but afterwards, sometimes. But anyways, you want to adjust that diopter ring so you get lined up, but you might want to repeat that once or twice, just to make sure. But I do that every morning when I go out birding, so it's because there's always that little bit of difference, and you may not think it makes that much difference, but sometimes, particularly early morning when it's still kind of darkish, you want to get as much detail as possible, and so that's what you do. So that's basically how you adjust your bins. And so you might want to take a screenshot of that, and or whatever, and keep that close. And after you've done it a few times, you'll get the idea. But so anyways, basically every morning, clean, diopter, interpupillary, close an eye, object 20 feet away, close left eye, open right one, of course. Adjust your diopter ring and open both eyes. Okay, and then go out and enjoy the birds. Optimize your time out there with the birds. Okay. And let's see what's next. And so if you're going to do a binocular checklist, and this is why I suggested the different things you do. You want to do twilight conditions, okay? Because you want to see how bright these your optics are. You want to see how good it comes. Because, like I said, under bright light, everything looks great. But under dark light, and it helps. If you're going to go to a store, maybe take several pairs. Try different ones, see how they work for you, and just don't go by price. Price doesn't mean anything, because sometimes, they just put a nice big sticker on there, give you lots of words, and no, it's what fits you, what makes you feel good. You look at faraway objects, and the way you do that is because you want to see how much jitter you get. In other words, how the weight of these binoculars, you're going to have them out there, and they're going to be away from your body, and you're I don't know about you, but I'm getting the shakies a little bit. And so the heavier the binoculars, especially if they're really weighty on the front, if you have those big 100-millimeter lenses out there, because you want to get more light, well, that's more weight in the front, okay? And so it tends to move with your pulse or whatever in your body. So look at faraway objects, see how much jitter you get, So you may want to go from those 10 power maybe down to an 8 or 7, okay? Because if everything's jumping up and down, it's hard to see. You look at the close objects, and the reason is for alignment. You want to see how well things line up. If the binoculars aren't in a line on close objects, what you're going to see is you're going to see a dual image, okay? An overlapping dual image. and so things won't be in alignment. So that way you can tell whether the things are in alignment or not. And by the way, if you're buying binoculars at the store, only buy the ones you just checked out. Okay, just because they have another in a box that's not been opened, that doesn't mean anything. They're supposed to be very good, but somewhere along there in the warehouse, somebody dropped that box, somebody kicked it over to the other guy, and he picked it up, and it's been bounced around in the UPS truck for a little bit. They do a good job. I'm just kidding. Okay, and so it might be, stuff might be out of alignment, or and you're going to be very disappointed when you get your binoculars out. So only buy the ones that you have on your hand, unless you really know the company that you're dealing with. I deal with the Vortex people. I found they've been very good. They used to be Eagle Optics, and those people have always delivered a good product. So there's certain people you can deal with that are good. Some of them, there's a couple companies out there that I don't deal with anymore because they just their customer service and so if you want names, I'll tell you names off air. So, and then you want to do, like I said, the quickly focus, okay, from clear to far and vice versa, because now you're going to take that focus wheel. Now, some of them have something called quick focus or rapid focus, and so what that means is that you can, if you will, go from 0 to 60 real fast. The problem is that because of that, then you're not making very much adjustment in the distance that the exit pupil is moving back and forth from the image, and so so it's a very short distance. So your ability to do good focusing is limited. Whereas maybe if it takes a couple turns of the wheel, okay, that usually means you have a little bit finer control. So it's fine versus coarse, okay, and basically the quick focus things, I had a pair of those. I gave them to my kids so that they could play with them. But I thought close focus or quick focus would be great. But basically what it has is it doesn't have repeatability. There's a thing called hysteresis. You can look that up. Okay, hysteresis, and basically means a mechanical or electrical thing that comes back to the same point when you adjust it. Well, hysteresis usually means that it does not come back to the same point, and it's how close it comes back. So some things don't ever come back to the same place. So, and like I said, look at the targets with horizontal and vertical lines, for distortion.
That's the phone.
Oh, that's the phone. Okay, I hear owls. Okay, so you want to look at those targets with the horizontal and vertical lines, and that's going to show you the distortion, okay? And what I sometimes do is hold the glasses away from me and look at the exit pupils, and you can see that. And also turn them around, okay? So you look in the objective lens and hold them up and down and twist them and turn them a little bit. And you can see those lines moving back and forth. If they're dancing like hula girls, you have a problem, okay? You want them as straight as possible. Then the other thing I do is I look at fluorescent lights.
Oh, wow.
And you look at that for prismatic distortion, because fluorescent lights put out a lot of different colors, okay? We look at them and it looks like white, okay? But when you hold your glasses up to them, if there's a lot of dispersion in the glasses, you'll see all kinds of bands and things. So you want to look at look at the fluorescent lights and move them back and forth a little bit, and you'll see it, particularly around the edges. If it's around the edges, it's not too bad a problem, but if it's in the middle, don't bother, okay? And then finally, how comfortable is it to hold? All right, so it's kind of like, does it fit your hand nicely? Can you put your fingers around it? Not everybody has the same things, So like, Louis there, he has big hands like catcher's mitts. Okay, so so when he gets these glasses, there's like little things in his hands, And then we have little Emily there. She's got these nice, cute little hands, and so she can't get her hands around those big tubes. So you want hand comfort. How well is it do? The other thing you might want to do is look at how much it weighs, because you're going to have these things hanging around your neck. All right, they're going to be hanging around your neck, and it's going to be out there all day, and so it's kind of like so it's going to be a pain in the neck. That's pretty good. Okay, so anyways, so you want to check that out. And so I always suggest for beginners, you get low power binoculars, 7 by 35 or 8 by 40, something like that. They should be waterproof, okay, just to save yourself a lot of grief. Fully multi-coated. You don't need the ED or something like that, but you should have waterproof, and spend as much as you can plus $5. The glasses I bought, I'm a little bit more advanced. They're 10 by 50s. They have the ED glass. The prisms are coated, all that good stuff. But the thing is that I don't get the big high end because I go in a lot of overseas places, and so basically you buy what you can afford to lose. Okay, so Anne had her glasses stolen in Cuba, so so fortunately they weren't real high end; they were middle price range. So so there's things like that you have to look at. So, and the thing is, for beginners, you may find out that maybe bird watching is not your cup of tea, and so your binoculars end up sitting on the shelf, and so they only get left to your offspring or something like that later. But the thing is that it's starting to start with, see how they work for you, and like I said, always test them at the dealers or reputable mail order house. And practice. Look at each bird, okay? No matter if you've seen them before, look at them again, and this will get you closer to using your binoculars, also appreciating the birds, and you might see some things you hadn't noticed before. And also track the birds or moving objects, so in other words, you want to get your speed up. You want to also practice looking at birds. So what I do is, and a lot of bird watchers do, is that you have your binoculars, they're hanging around your neck, and you have your hands on them, and you see a bird, keep your eye on the bird, and then bring the binoculars up to your eyes, okay? But keep focused on the bird, all right? Because if you look down to see where your binoculars are and you look up, the bird just disappeared. But it could still be sitting right there, but it just disappeared because you just changed a little bit. So keep your eyes on the bird, bring your binoculars up to your eyes, and look through your binoculars. So you want to practice that, and you don't have to do it snap. Real quick movements might scare the birds, but in a gradual fashion, bring them up, keep an eye on the bird, and you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And of course, well, if you buy the binoculars, you need some auxiliary equipment. So you're going to need a neck strap or a harness or something like that. I use a neck strap that has a wide band to it, and it has a certain amount of elasticity to it, so it moves back and forth. And I adjust the strap so that it hits the binoculars. The top of the binoculars hit about in the middle of my chest, and then I can pick them up, look through them, put them back down. Some people like a harness which goes over their shoulders, like a backpack or something like that, and that makes them feel more comfortable. I find them awkward because to get out of them, you're kind of pulling the straps over your shoulders and through and everything. Get a lens brush, okay, to keep things clean. Some lens cleaning fluid or a microcloth for washing things, and you want to get some kind of a lens cover. I know normally they supply some kind of a lens caps. The objective lens caps don't do you much good. Those are about only good for when you're in storage, or like when you put them in your luggage or something like that, keep it from getting scratched. But out in the field, the objective lens caps aren't much good. And then you want the exit covers, and those are designed so that you can just flip them off and get them. And that'll keep all the cookie crumbs out and the dust and other stuff and saliva or whatever else that might drop into your binoculars. So in conclusion, wow, you're really going to enjoy your birds. Okay, so go out there, take a look, and you're going to enjoy them more if they're up close to you. And so binoculars are not that difficult. It's just sometimes you just have to take your time. You don't want to, there's nothing worse than spending a lot of money on binoculars and then find out that they're not of much value. I know I learned a long time ago. I bought some Zeisses, which are supposed to be high end, and then I went down and I bought some stuff from Eagle Optics, and they were 3 times better, and at half the price. Wow. So it's kind of like, just because it has a big name on it doesn't mean it's fantastic, So, okay, so wow, okay, so that wraps it up. I don't know if anybody had any questions or not. No?
No, I didn't
I
see
put him to sleep. Yeah. Yeah. Andy just woke up, so. Hi, Andy. So we have some upcoming events. Okay. So this Friday, we're going to be up there at Reiki Park at noon. Okay. That's open to the public. And so I understand there's a senior group going there. So I think you can just get right in there. So it's at the second entrance to Reiki Park. And so that's put on by the Auburn Parks Department. Kikiunga Festival down at Riverside Park in Decatur. That's the Decatur Chamber of Commerce. And so we're going to be there with our birds. And then Saturday is Huntertown Heritage Days. And so we're going to do the parade. You'll see our fantastic van in there. And then we're going to go to the family park at the amphitheater. And we're going to put on a program with our birds. And everybody's invited. That's open to the public. Next Saturday, we're going down there to Salina. And we're going at North Shore Park. We're going to do all about owls. But we will bring Jeff, the bald eagle. And then let's see, what else are we doing? Okay, then the following week, somewhere in there, we're doing open streets with the Fort Wayne not Chamber of Commerce. I guess it's the, I don't know. But anyways, it's sponsored by the city of Fort Wayne. And so we're going to be out there. There's going to be music and dancing and singing and all that kind of thing. But on September 7th, we're going to be at the Tin Caps Baseball at Parkview Field. So we're going to be out there. We're going to see if Jeff can come out there and do the Star Spangled Banner with us. All right. And then let's see, where else? Roanoke Fall Festival's coming up on the 10th. On the 11th, we'll be at Stone's Trace, historical site out here on Route 33, out there by Ligonier. Then up to Middlebury at the Riverbend Park. Middlebury then and now. Okay. At the Riverbend Park. And then the Trail of Courage. We're there by Rochester, so we'll be there with several of our birds and our people in historic costume. And then, let's see, we're going to be over at St. Henry's Boy Scouts, so check with your troop. And also, we're going to be at the Saratoga Park neighborhood. And so we're going to help them celebrate and have, hopefully there's going to be lots of food, etc. And, but we got lots of other stuff coming up in the fall. But this is just a partial list, but there's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of places where you can meet us and see our birds, and we can have a good time. And what else we got coming up? Huh. Oh, the Facebook. You can talk about this.
Yes, our Facebook auction is coming. If you go to Soarin Hawk Auction Group on Facebook and like or follow to get updates, it will start at 12 a.m. or actually 12:01 a.m. on September 15th, and it will end at 6 p.m. on September 25th. And we've got some really cool items for auction. We have a pizza oven and several really cool pieces of art, and just really books, lots of good stuff. So go check out we're updating the Facebook page as we get more stuff. I'm a little behind on that, but just go check out and see what we've got. Keep checking back and see if there's anything you'd like to bid on. We also have the Comets this year won the Kelly Cup, and we have a photograph of the team that's been autographed by all of the players. So if you're a Comets fan, get ready, because that's going to be a popular item. So check it out. Mark your calendars and come and bid.
Hey, I understand I'm up for bid.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of binoculars and bird watching, we have 4 separate items to bid on with Birding with Bob, which Bob is going to take a group of 4 people, and we're going to meet here at the Soarin Hawk Prairie and take the Soarin Hawk van to an undisclosed location where you will watch birds with Bob. Bob knows a lot about birds, you guys, so this is a really cool item. He's been very gracious to allow us to offer this, and this is really a cool thing, so get ready.
I'm cheap.
Yeah.
But not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we'll have a good time out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to, we'll pack up some picnic lunches and go out there. We're going to hit a couple hot spots around the area. depending on what I know is running around. And and about the time in the fall is when a lot of the migratory waterfowl and cranes and stuff like that are moving through. And so we'll have a great opportunity to go out. Okay. Don't forget fish. We need help with the fish for Jeff and Aaron and Poe. And I guess we got some other guys. We have some osprey and
eagle.
And eagle, all which need some fish. And in fact, the place in here smells like a fish market.
I know,
It's terrible, but anyway, so, somebody's buzzing us. And let's see, the Raptor Adventure. Well, I think the Raptor Adventure got rained out for today, I think. But anyways, so we give you a individual guided tour of our facility out here on the Huntertown Prairie. And by the way, what happened to the flamingos? I don't see them out there. They fly off?
They must have.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they took them out when they mowed.
Yeah. So anyways, come on out, give us a call. So you give us a call, we'll make arrangements, or you can get on the internet and for programs and say that you'd like to come out and get some details. But we can do it, we're open daily. Best time is between 1 and 2 because that's when a lot of our volunteers are here doing work. So you get to meet the volunteers, you get to meet the birds. And don't forget, we have programs available for schools, homeschoolers, community groups, scouts, churches, retirement homes. We do birthday parties, weddings, Eagle Awards, block parties, baby showers. So, so there's a number of different, if you have an excuse, we'll come and bring the birds, okay? And don't forget, when you're spending your money at Amazon, designate us as your charity, and we get a half of 1%. Okay, and then let's see, community rewards. Join on community rewards. Designate us as your charity, and and we get a portion of how much money they collect each quarter. So we're getting about $450 each quarter from this. So right now we have about 150 families signed on, and it'd be nice to have more because the more representation we get, the better, the more money we receive, and $450, that's almost 2 boxes of frozen mice, and we go through that much in a month, so so it'd be really helpful. So I think I'm going to shut up. I don't know how many people I put to sleep, but Lynn stayed awake the whole time, and so she's hot to go out there and get those new binoculars.
I am.
And so she knows what to look for. And if you want, if you like more information or any of these slides, give a call, and we can probably get those out to you. We can email those or something, and some guidelines. But so there's, like I said, buying binoculars can be easy, but it's something you have to look out for. It's just like kicking the tires on a car. You gotta do due diligence, and you'll be happy. Nothing worse than be grumbling about your binoculars. You may not ever want to go out again. And you get bad binoculars, you won't even wish them on your worst enemy. So it's so I'm going to say goodbye from the. Well, the sun went away.
It sure did.
And the humidity's coming back down. So it's raining like mad out here, so it's flooding our floodplain. So So anyway, and I'm sorry if you go past us. We just mowed the prairie because we're trying to get the fall flowers to come up now. So we're going to give them a chance. And but it was looking really good this summer, and I think so. In a couple of years, we're going to really have all the pollinators happy. But we had brown-eyed Susans out there. I had some bergamot. We had cone flowers. We had Queen Anne's lace. We had all kinds of stuff out there. And but it was time that we had to mow it and get the next production of stuff out there. And so stop by. Again, you can come out. You can visit us. With the Raptor Adventures, you come out and see us, or come to any of those programs that we're going to be at. We're going to be all over Northeast Indiana and over there in Ohio. Come out, see us. And don't forget to bring your wallets. We don't charge you anything for leaving money with us. Do we, Andy? No. Andy says just Just leave your checkbook. We'll take care of it. We'll return it with 1 or 2 checks left. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you next week, same time. And I think next week we're going to talk about those little yellow birds with the black wings.
Ah,
You know.
excellent.
So we're going to talk about those guys because it's their time of the year now. Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
And somewhere is a button here. Is that it?
Yep.